Judge Scalia suggested that attorneys take a page out of the book from their death penalty colleagues and advise don't wait to think about sentencing advocacy because 99% of one's federal criminal clients will be facing sentencing. And so start preparing for the case as early as you can. I know all of you who are tuning in know someone or personally going through this experience today. No one can promise you and say that, I know the judge, don't worry. There's no rush to prepare. You've heard that the feds were asking questions, but still you're told there's no rush. The stages are, you may hear that there's rumors that the FBI and the Department of Justice have been asking questions. You may have gotten a target letter or someone showed up at your home. You're the feds. What you can do is different than what your attorneys can do. The nuances of everything that goes into a federal criminal defense is not just on the legal side, because the judge knows nothing about you, your attorney knows nothing about you. So it starts with a well-written personal narrative. This is your story or your autobiography or your brand. Wheaties has Breakfast of Champions. But why do you want to write your personal narrative? Because the Department of Justice has gifted you and printed their story of you. It's called your indictment, where you appear as America's most wanted, and it's likely not that flattering. The pre-sentence interview and investigation process. Your personal narrative, you need to prepare well written. It'll take a couple months. Getting all your files to your attorney, and then from your attorney to the probation officer about a week before your interview, comprehensive and organized, it may be appreciated because they will then have the time to fill out their probation report worksheet. And then when they meet with you at the interview, they can personally get to know who you are and ask any remaining questions that you may have. That's because many reasons. For the first is that your probation officer and is allowed to make your sentence and placement recommendation to the judge before you ever get there. Second is that your judge is going to read your pre-sentence report before you go into court. So they'll probably already have a sentence in mind. If you don't have a personal narrative woven into and attached to your pre-sentence report, then all the judge is going to read is your pre-sentence report and your indictment. And good luck with that. And they're going to be ready for someone who's, appears to be a career criminal. My name is Dr. Marc Blatstein. While no one can give you any guarantees, preparation can humanize you to your judge and reduce the fears that you and your family and loved ones are naturally experiencing. If you have any questions regarding the federal sentencing or just in general, give me a call at no charge, 240-888-7778. So if you find yourself where you've been indicted and convicted either at trial or plea, it is still possible for you to lessen your sentence, but there's things you need to do. But I digress. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the Department of Justice's number one target, and that's going to be in the healthcare sector. They had a very widely publicized Department of Justice $14 billion healthcare convictions or takedown, and so there's lessons learned. For most, it's going to be prevention. Protecting yourself from this era of healthcare fraud. So I'm going to read from this. This comes out of the AMA in May of 2025. There's medical coding errors come into several broad categories: fraud and abuse. The former involves intentional misrepresentation. This is not good. The latter, abuse, means falsification was an innocent mistake, but nonetheless representative. An example of abuse would be involving coding for a more complex service than what was performed, otherwise known as upcoding. So I'm going to continue here to just some of what I've highlighted. Some of the most common mix-ups to avoid in medical coding: unbundling of codes. When there's a single code that's available that captures payment for the component parts of the procedure, this is what you want to use. I know that there are some that may be tempted to break up the code or break up your coding to the individual parts of the procedures that you performed, but it's not wise. Upcoding is if you're a physician in a specialty such as oncology that often has highly complex patients. You really need to follow the guidelines if you're going to go ahead and use the highest level evaluation and management code. And so there are examples of outright fraud in terms of upcoding. And this case is being used as a warning, where a psychiatrist was fined $400,000 and permanently excluded from taking part in Medicare. And he billed for 30 to 60-minute face-to-face sessions when actually they were 15 minutes. And so you just don't want to get involved in any of this upcoding, no matter how uh, how much you feel that you're entitled to your expertise. Unfortunately, the Department of Justice is checking in. Failing to check the National Correct Coding Initiative, this is where there's edits that they provide for multiple codes. These are automated repayment edits that are reached analyzing every pair of codes built. Essentially, they're going to go ahead. This NCCI edit can start denying codes, but you need to be aware, or I'm hoping I can make you aware, that Department of Justice is using artificial intelligence along with their analytics. And artificial intelligence, it has several parts to it. But first of all, they're data mining 24/7, 365 all the time. And if they pick you up, they actually have different AI models that each have their own task, but they're smart enough to go ahead and combine their resources so that if they're looking for different things and they find all those different things and it happens to find them on you, these different programs can merge and it gives you a makes you look that much worse. If you bill for a lesion, where you bill for a lesion, excision, and skin repair on a single service date, but the CPT coding guidelines say simple repairs are included in the excision code. So separately billing for these codes could be wrong and generate this edit. You can put an appropriate modifier to let the payer know give them more information to work with. But again, with the use of artificial intelligence and analytics, if you start appearing so much higher or more frequent in your demographic market, you're going to get flagged. And believe me, it's not in your best interest. Failing to append the appropriate modifiers or appending inappropriate modifiers. This could involve reporting modifier 50 bilateral procedure to a procedure code where in that code it's already a bilateral service. Overusing modifier 22, increased procedural services. Everything comes down to documentation. I can't be clear enough. Some of the electronic medical records provide you the ability to do that. But if you excise a lesion located in a crease of the neck that is of a very obese patient, the obesity makes this excision more difficult. In this case, appending modifier 22 to the code used to report the removal could indicate the increased complexity. Improper reporting of the effusion and hydration codes, which are time-based. And again, this is where documentation becomes very important. A continuous intravenous hydration is given from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. In that case, instead of continuous infusion, the two administrations may be reported separately. Recording unlisted codes without documentation, you might as well, put the bullet in the gun, load the gun, put it to your head and pull the trigger, because this may get flagged pretty quickly. And if you do this routinely, your documentation is the only thing you have that's going to keep you out of trouble. Federal healthcare enforcement is rapidly changing and is being driven by AI data analytics, which I go into. But these algorithms, you can't depend on AI to do your billing for you. So I'm going to open up this other website for a moment here. ICD-10 modifier. Who owns the liability? It's going to fall on you. I mean, once they go ahead, there's autonomous coding, artificial intelligence. You can't put the blame on an outside billing company or on your program that does the billing, because you're going to be liable. And so if your claims are AI coded, if yes, you're liable. It's kind of like if you have a general business and your employee does something wrong, the buck stops at your desk. And so CMS already analyzes at every Medicare fee-for-service claim through fraud and prevention, uses predictive analytics. Once they find a pattern, it can really get to give you a very big problem. And so in real-time monitoring, this Kansas City doctor, I'll open it up, and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for Medicare fraud. That's in addition, I'm pretty comfortable saying that there was a dollar restitution amount. So it is not just going to be a false claim act. At some point, you don't want to roll the dice and then wind up in prison. So if you're convicted at trial or you have a plea, it's still possible to lessen your sentence. But it's going to, how is this done? It's done with preparation for your pre-sentence interview. It's a very big, this is the most important meeting you're going to have in your life. I had a felony conviction in 2006. I did get my medical license back. There was no Medicare fraud, but there was a fraudulent action taken, and I was guilty. As I said, got my license reinstated. So I'm a physician with firsthand experience of navigating felony convictions and incarceration within the Federal Bureau of Prisons. My expertise lies with sentencing mitigation, the pre-sentence interview preparation, which is the most important part of your life, guidance on life inside the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and making sure that if we can make you eligible for early release. But there's no guarantee. No one can guarantee you. Your lawyer can't. No one can as to what ultimately your judge or the federal prisons is going to do. Again, my phone number 240-888-7778. I hope you have a great day, and I thank you for taking the time to listen in. Stay safe.